Block number four. Block number four is here. Hey guys, this is Brendan with Evoke Bike. We're going to continue with 5 blocks to racing. So where we're at right now is January in block number 4 if you're going to be racing in February. This is when things really get personalized. You know, building aerobic fitness, there's not a lot of hacks to that. We've kind of gone through block 1, 2, and 3. A lot of those things, they're not super complicated. And remember that your focus was on the gym, building strength. If you ride after you lift and your ride's not super optimal, you're feeling a little tired, you can't, push out tempo watts, or if you get into block 3 and you're doing some progressive stuff, that's okay. The gym is the focus. Just getting the hours on the bike is going to be plenty. I really cannot stress that enough. And when we're talking about the weekend rides, a lot of times I schedule intervals during this time of year just so athletes don't get bored and go do a group ride and thrash themselves. You don't need that right now. You don't need to be going over the threshold and doing VO2Max stuff if you're not going to use it. So block number 4 though, January, this is when things really, you need to take a step back and look at your schedule. So I'm going to present a lot of different scenarios here, and hopefully you can find one that's applicable to you. Again, email me if you have specific questions, but when we hit January, you have to first ask yourself, okay, if I'm racing in February, is it an A race? Are you going to Valley of the Sun and for some reason this is like your teed up event? Or maybe you're just starting to race and you don't need to have done a bunch of VO2 max stuff before that race. You want to get in that zone, but you don't need to have been looking to progress through intervals and really hitting high numbers. The other thing is some people are going to a team camp and you want to ride well in February at a team camp. There is nothing worse than going to team camp and leaving demotivated thinking, I don't belong on this squad, or I'm not strong enough, or what have I done with all my training? So block number 4, I'm going to read through this as I post it on the PDF, and then we'll tweak things as needed. So for the gym, you can start to shift your work to plyo work if you want. It's more fast twitch. It's really, I would definitely do that if you're a sprinter type, or you could continue with strength, which is personally what I do. I don't want to give a cop out and say I do a hybrid model because I don't really. I'm not super sold on the fact that plyo is necessary if you're doing some weekend like Townline sprints, and we'll get into those. But just decide, maybe you want to switch up from heavy weights, do plyo, but again, you want to continue with your strength work throughout the whole year. So make a decision that you feel is best for you. If you're a diesel or a one-day racer or even just an all-arounder, I think strength is going to be more beneficial. But if you're getting stale from the gym and you're not enjoying the heavy lifts, switch it up for 4 weeks for a block, and then go back to strength again, and you can flip-flop those as needed. So midweek, if you're going to start racing, you want to go through a VO2 max block right now. I want to start with saying that back when I first started training, we never would have thought of really doing a block of VO2 max that early, because all the elders were telling you, like, you don't want to be a January superstar, you don't want to peak too early. You're not going to peak unless you're doing a massive overload and tapering in, or if you're overtraining, or if you're going to team camp and doing 20 hours and then you've got a week off work and you're doing 20 hours and then you kind of crumble. The peaking too early thing so rarely happens, and it only happens to the person that just rides too much. So if you set out a logical schedule with progression, you're going to be fine with that. And when I say progression in this sense, just talking about hours. Keep yourself in check. It's fun to go do a random 5-6 hour ride. Just don't stack up all these big rides that you don't soak up the stimulus. You get super freaking tired. And then when it comes to do work at the end of the block, you get into block number 5 and you're like, crap, I'm wasted. Just avoid that and you'll be fine. So if you're going to do a VO2 max block, you can Google that. There's a lot of different ways to attack it. I purely work the system, meaning I don't do 5x5, let's say, if that's what you choose, or if you go to optimize intervals and it says do 4 minutes and 30-second intervals, I don't always do that for the most part over and over again. Personally, with myself and with athletes, the gains that you make from a specific duration usually end up being less than if you work the whole system. Meaning, do a 8x3 minute workout, then do one on Thursday that's maybe a little bit less taxing. And then on the weekend, do some Townline sprints. So you're, racing for a Townline. So that's going to be more neuromuscular work. Then on the next Tuesday, instead of doing 8x3 again, maybe do 6x4 or a classic 5x5. I don't think that you really need to be increasing the specific duration over and over again. The other issue is it's so specified that unless you have an event that hey, it's a 5-minute climb every lap, you're going to get more overall benefit than just focusing on one interval. But number two, you're going to find out where in the VO2 max range you're good and where you're bad, which sounds like it's a zone. What do you mean? Like, what am I good at? What am I bad at? I 5x5s suck because they're long, but I do pretty well at them. I had to work on getting better at 8x3 because you're going harder for 3 minutes than 5 minutes. So for me, I knew I could, get really good work in 5x5, but I had to work on 8x3. And in this first block, if you change things up, I think you're going to learn a lot about yourself. Do one that has like a hard start where you start harder and allow your watts to fade a little bit while still staying in the zone, or super high threshold by the end. Use that knowledge to then say, okay, hey, I'm actually like really good at the short stuff, but 5-6 minute efforts, like I suck at that. And then maybe as you're getting into intensive aerobic stuff, the next block, you notice like, hey, I'm really good at a 20-minute test, but at 10 minute, I kind of suck. And 10 minutes is a really important duration in cycling that nobody really talks about. So go through the VO2 max block. Midweek, if you're going to start racing in March, I would recommend do an FTP block, and then you're going to do your VO2 max block the next block. Reason being, it's a great progression. You're coming out of doing low threshold, you're doing some burst workouts in block 3. So in block 4, go and hit the FTP stuff, and you can use optimized intervals. You can also just ask yourself, look at your power duration curve and say, what am I sort of weak on? 10 minute, 15 minute, or 20 minute, or 25 minute. Choose one of those, work 2 of them during the block, or you could work one and just really try to progress the wattage. There's a lot of ways to skin that cat. And again, you got to look big picture. Like, are you thinking of are you thinking of events in March as an A race? Do you know if there's like an event specific duration that might be helpful? There's so many questions you could ask from this. Like, I'm just trying to give the best advice from a template as possible. And again, this is one reason why I hate template plans. There's no way it knows even the slightest amount enough about you and what you're trying to achieve to help you out in the right way or in the most optimized way. So, and then let's talk about the weekend. So Townline sprints, when I assign these, are actually like the most skipped workout that I give because people think it's like just mail it in, like they don't have to do it. Townline sprints are an amazing way to hone your finishing kill, because if you don't know how to win from a group of 4 people where one person's probably a faster sprinter, one person might have like a sick 1-minute diesel like attack at the end, one person's older and crafty, whatever, everybody has these different characteristics. If you don't understand how to beat all 3 of them, you will never win a bike race unless you are by yourself, which is so damn hard to do, right? When do you ever get off the front, unless it's the last like 5K, let's say, and win by yourself? Very few people do that. So Townline sprints simply mean when you see a Townline sign, or a county sign, when they are changing, that is a sprint line. And some people are going to go far. Some people are going to go, they're going to wait too late. Like, all the dynamics come into play. But also, since it's only January now and you're doing this, you're not full steam ripping. It gives you the understanding of where your body's at, so that if you go to do training races or races in February, you know like what your matches are and what kind of finishing kill you have. Learn this craft. If you take anything from this series, Like, this is literally racing specific training. So do that. Do the Townline sprints every other weekend. This means like 10 of them. If you don't have a ton of Townlines, you can use stop ahead signs. That's big in Tennessee here. This means 10 sprints. This is not a 3-hour bike race, right? Those 10 sprints are enough hard efforts. The rest of the time is zone 2, zone 3. Continue building that aerobic engine. You can get a little more animated on climbs. But really, the overall focus is still aerobic. I don't know if I said aerobic focus is still aerobic. The overall focus is still aerobic because it's a long season and it's January. But there's no harm in starting to get these systems rolling, okay? Overall, I would say 2 max hard days a week. So if you're doing the VO2Max block, do Tuesday, do Thursday, and then Saturday, do these sprints, but lock it up at that. That's really 3 hard days. So I'll take my word back, 2 to 3 hard days. But when you racing, when's the first A race? Got to think of all those things. If you are racing in mid-February now, just make sure you look, and let's say it's Valley of the Sun, what stage are you targeting? What system really needs to be humming? That's what you want to be training in January so that then you have time to taper, right? Because you're not going to be training through February if you have a race in the middle of the month. So this just highlights how you need to always map things backwards. What is the date of the event? What is the goal? How teed up do you have to be? What training do you have to do for it? What does the event demand of you? And now map it backwards. There are a million ways to do this when I hope this is like stirring up some questions in your head, because the planning piece is so important. And you need to think about your training, and it is okay. If you don't have money for a coach, that's totally cool. I understand that. I'm not here to sell you coaching. I hope that doesn't come across that way. But I want you to understand how to take information that you get from a template like this and apply it to yourself by asking these questions, by moving these training blocks around so it applies to you. Don't just pay somebody $15 for something that has nothing to do with you, because that really to me is more confusing. The only reason we ever started the $8 plan, which is getting almost out of hand because a lot of people really enjoy it, because we go through and we do the power file analysis. We understand who you are as an athlete. We understand what your top event is and where you're going. So we do this for you. So 5 blocks to racing. We just did number 4. The next one in February is going to be the last one of this series. And I might continue this. There's just so many variables once races start that I think it'll be better to shift this to Cat 4 questions, because those specific questions, the more we get, will overlap with other people. And I think I'll just be able to address a larger group of people. So one Cat 4 question that I will address very soon is why, I'll read the exact email, but it basically was, why are you putting out all this free content? Now I will answer that because I think the origin story of Evoke Bike needs to be told more as to why this even started. Had I realized we are still baby Evoke Bike, I get that. I never thought we would have a video with like 8,000 views, or, we're getting to the point now, the blog is getting very popular, and we're really appreciative that people are actually reading it, sharing it, engaging with us, emailing us. I'll get into why Evoke Bike started, exists, and why so much free content. That's always been our thing from day one, and this is it. So 5 blocks to racing. I hope number 4 was helpful. Post your questions below, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. See ya.